Hello everybody, welcome to our Breathe Break on Monday. Looking forward to connecting with all of you. If somebody comes on, give me a shout and a hello and let me know my volume's good. I'm using a new headset, so hopefully all is well. But today on our Breathe Break, first of all, if you're joining us for the first ever time for our Breathe Breaks, the purpose of a Breathe Break is to give your brain exactly that, some rest, some relaxation, some time to rejuvenate and to integrate the information and the stimulation it's been exposed to so that you can then go back at whatever it is you've been working on, your day, your focus, your goal, with a clear mind and a clear focus. And so ideally for your brain, every 90 minutes, you would take a 10-minute or more breathe break and just shift your focus and clear your mind. Maybe do deep breaths, maybe do a yoga pose, maybe listen to some music, but just take a little rest. Hey, Angie. I would love if you'd give me a heads up on volume, Angie, because I'm using a new headset here. So anyway, that's the intent of a breathe break. And once a week, we get together in our tribe, in our community, and okay, cool. Thanks, Angie. And we do this break together. So today I wanted to talk about an expression that I absolutely love, and it's called bloom where you are planted. Now, I might love this expression because I am a farmer's daughter after all. I love nature. I love being able to get outside for these breathe breaks. If you can do that too, every 90 minutes, get 10 minutes outside, you get your vitamin D, you get fresh oxygen. And it's just, it takes relaxation, I think, and the breathe break to a whole nother level. So I try to do that whenever possible. It's not always possible, and that's okay. So anyway, bloom where you are planted. This is an expression I love. Having grown up on a farm, everything was ebbs and flow of seasons. And there was always a reason and a purpose for every season, right? And for every time, and for the amount of sun, and for the amount of rain, and everything served a purpose. And then when I went on to create One Whole Health, after lots of years of study of neuroscience and how our thoughts create and law of attraction, I began to appreciate this expression even more of blooming where you're planted. However, I think sometimes people hear bloom where you're planted and think it might mean that you're stuck and just be satisfied where you are and be content where you are. And I want you to not misunderstand that. That's not at all what bloom where you're planted means. So I'm going to talk about what it means and also how it does help to ease overwhelm and anxiety and just the stress that can build up from day to day in our fast-paced modern living. So bloom where you are planted is not about standing still and doing nothing, and it's certainly not about waiting for things to happen. Okay, so we're not waiting for spring or waiting for harvest or anything like that. Bloom where you're planted is really, it can be a very inspirational phrase. And what I mean by that is what you could interpret from bloom where you're planted is make the most of where you are and what you have. And that's great, and that is definitely part of it. And it's also a very proactive plan for action. So the true perspective of bloom where you're planted is really never ever wait for the perfect conditions before you take action on your dreams and your goals and your desires, and even on solving problems. So it's never wait for perfect conditions, because perfect conditions don't happen. They just don't. So bloom where you're planted is about releasing any resistance toward what is and no longer waiting for perfect conditions before you take action. So let's do a little check-in. And for anybody listening, I'd love for you to share in the comments section. Have you ever said something like this to yourself? Like, I'll do blank, whatever it is, when blank happens. So I'll start my business when I have more time. I'll take better care of myself when the kids are out of the house. I'll have my turn when I'm done, when I get to retirement maybe. How many of you have ever said something like that? I'll take my action after something else happens. And just show by a star, by a comment, by a like. I hear it all the time, so I know it's happening. And I've fallen into that way of thinking in the past, and I've worked very hard to break free of that. Because saying that, I'll do this when, that happens is the same thing as saying, I'm going to wait for the perfect conditions before I take action. And you may or may not realize it, but that is resistance. And resistance is what breeds overwhelm and anxiety and stress. And this is at epidemic levels for women especially. So here is the new way to look at things, which is bloom where you're planted. Begin to live in a constant state of flow. So in other words, no longer blocking yourself from goals or dreams because you're waiting for perfect conditions. Live in the state of flow. And steps that you can take toward this, the first thing is that the recognition and the acceptance that there's absolutely nothing you need to fix or change before you can take some action on your goal, on your dream, even on solving a problem. There is always something that you can do. And notice how often your mind gravitates toward what you cannot do. I can't do this right now. Well, this can't happen because. Begin to practice awareness, and starting out that maybe an hour, out of every hour, a minute to 5 minutes that you take reflecting and saying, how often have I already said today, I can't do something until? Okay, that's that resistance. That's waiting for perfect conditions. And then you practice a new way of thinking. Oh, what can I do? What can I actually do right now? Don't worry, don't spend time on what you can't do, because you can't, right? So spend your energy and your momentum and your thought, which is your creation, on what you actually can do. The second step that you can take to train yourself to bloom where you're planted is what I call flipping the lens. So maybe you have thought, I share this one because I hear this fairly often from women, and it's really painful when you feel this way. I'll be happy when I lose weight. It actually is that I'll be happy and then I'll lose weight. Okay? It's being with what is versus resistance, versus waiting for a perfect condition of when your body is a perfect weight and then you'll be happy. It's the exact opposite. Flip that lens. Get happy first and then you will lose weight. And I've seen it over and over and over again. Another one that's fairly common is I'll invest, I'll take that trip when I have more money. What if you took that trip and then you find more money? Then you attract more money. What if you enroll in that school or education and then money comes to you? What if you put out advertising for your business and then a client arrives? So it's flipping the lens on the order in which you see things. And I'm not talking about really overextending yourself. This is an energetic and a thought perspective that finding the way to still be in forward movement, not blocked, not resistant, no matter what the conditions are. So I'm not saying sign a mortgage for $1 million home, because you could, and who knows what will show up. And it's really, though, what can you do? And we tend to think of the limitation and think of the block versus doing the 20 things or probably 100 things that are in between, staying exactly where you are and signing that mortgage for $1 million house. So it's what you can do. Flip the lens, knowing that if you take action, you're going to be met by more motivation and you're going to attract the next step. And then you take action again, and then you attract the next step. And that is proactive, and that is blooming where you're planted. So find the action. Think about the action that you can only take under certain conditions. So, sometimes, not that long ago, just to give a real life example, not that long ago, I had a client who was injured. And so she couldn't run a race. She actually she was training for a race, and then she was injured. And she also wanted to go out and be giving more workshops and things for her business. And she, felt like she was really limited from the injury to her leg. And she was put on basically, not bed rest, but not walking around. And I said, what are the things that you can only do when you're not walking around? And it turned out she had a stack of books she'd been wanting to read. She had wanted to reconnect with an old friend for a long time. I had her make a list of 10 or 20 things that she had been putting on the back burner, and that this was actually, the current moment was the perfect condition to bloom in those areas. And then she chose the most meaningful part, the most meaningful step for her, which was actually writing to this friend that she'd been estranged from for a very long time. And as long as she was busy, she had a perfect built-in excuse not to reach out, not to communicate, and not to bridge the gap and mend the bridge. And she did, and it turned out incredible, and it never would have happened had she not hurt her leg. So that's bloom where you're planted. Find what you can do. Find the action you can always take, and especially the action that you can take that would only happen during the current situations. And that is letting go, completely letting go of resistance. So again, there's no perfect condition. You'll never feel like you know enough, or you have enough time, or you have enough money, right? That's the human, those are our limiting beliefs that are very powerful. And they're also an indication, if you're thinking that way, and if you hear those thoughts in your mind, they're an indication that you're thinking in terms of right or wrong, all or nothing. And life is in between. Life is the broad spectrum and the full buffet of every option. And every single moment has a perfect action that could only occur in that moment. And you are moving energy on a cellular level. You are moving energy that needs to flow. And you will always feel overwhelmed and anxious and stressed when you try to slow down or block that flow, even subconsciously. So what I say to you today, you are exactly where you're meant to be. And what has happened is exactly what was meant to happen. And my challenge to you and my encouragement and invitation is, how can you bloom in the exact situation that you're in right now today? And I would love for you to share that in our comments. Think of your whole day and exactly where you are in life in a fresh way. And what is the action that you could only take right now in the perfect conditions that you have today? What is that action? And then take it and share how that feels. This is one of the many life skills and thought skills that we practice in the Vibrant Woman. So for those of you who are just getting to know me, I'm the creator of One Whole Health, and our doors are open right now in the Vibrant Woman program. And in the Vibrant Woman, I help women change their brain and manage their emotions so they can master their mindset. And this step that we're talking about today, blooming where you're planted, really falls into that mastering your mindset. This takes practice, this takes skill, this takes community, and especially a coach that's helping you see the blind spot of your thinking and how you've been operating. And that's just one of the things that we do in the Vibrant Woman. So if you are interested, if you think the Vibrant Woman is right for you, go to the link that's in the comments here. It's onewholehealth.com/help-me-Leah, and answer some questions for me, and I'll reach out to you and we'll jump on the phone one-on-one and see if this is a good fit for you. And whether it is or not, today, practice blooming where you're planted. Share something that you think of right now. Don't overthink it, because that is waiting for perfect conditions, waiting until you figure out the right thing to do. Release that resistance. What is today perfect for? What is that action? Commit to it in the comments and go make it happen. Because life is meant to be enjoyed, and you are meant to feel good. And when you bloom where you're planted, it feels good. Have a great day, everybody.